Hello and welcome back to The Man from Hildebrand. There's going to be a few little bits which I'm just going to run by before I get to the sort of main topic of today's episode, which is sort of discussing the three problems with No Time to Die. Anyway, before that, I'm going to just give a bit of an update on things that's been happening in the world of Bond. Last Wednesday, Amazon totally surprised us all by dropping a trailer for a six-part comedy sort of series called Bait. This was written and produced and directed and stars Riz Ahmed. Now, Riz Ahmed is a British actor. He's appeared in Nightcrawler, Rogue One and Relay, and a numerous of other things as well. But this is a comedy series, which I think kind of also sort of adds to the sort of unexpectedness of it all. So Bait is basically focused on an actor, on a kind of a failed actor who's still trying to make it big, played by Riz Ahmed, and he lands the role for playing Bond. So this is kind of obviously sort of taking the piss out of the old kind of tabloid and the old kind of clickbait nonsense that we see. But no doubt I would imagine that this is probably kind of inspired by the time when he was just randomly announced as being the first Asian to play James Bond back in probably 23 or 24, because this was actually sort of written and produced and approved in 2024, but it's just now Amazon have now only just got around to releasing it, which I'm suspecting it might be part of that typical sort of marketing publicity campaign to try and get Bond 26 out there. So that is available on Amazon Prime on March the 26th, I think. So yeah, looking at the trailer, it looks really good. So yeah, I'm kind of really looking forward to that, because obviously when Amazon was announced that they had full control of Bond, we was kind of thinking, okay, you know, we will get now a Moneypenny spin-off, we will get a Felix Leiter spin-off, we will probably get faithful adaptations of the Ian Fleming novels. I don't think having a comedy series was kind of in anybody's kind of mindset. So yeah, it's a really kind of interesting kind of move. And again, so far I kind of like what Amazon, I mean, until Bond, I mean, I think Bond 26, that's like the creme de la creme. That is whether or not us fans are going to be really, truly satisfied with what Amazon have done. So far, they've given us, you know, obviously all the Bond films on Prime, they've given us Road to a Million, they're now giving us this comedy series, which seems to be sort of something that most people are approving of and looking forward to. So far, they're kind of, you know, doing really well, but obviously Bond 26 is going to be what they will be judged on. So yeah, Bond is now on Netflix. It dropped on the 21st of January. I believe it's all of the Bond films, including Never Say Never Again, are available in the US for, I believe, 4 months, I think. Whether or not after that 4 months they will then come to the UK, I don't know. But so far, it's in the US. There was plans of having it in France and Germany. So yeah, Netflix has currently got James Bond. Also, I've seen that people are now receiving their Moonraker vinyls, which one person did comment, and it made me laugh out loud, literally, because he described the two Moonraker editions as being Orchid Vomit and Space Ejaculation. Now, me being me, my mind then starts going off on one and then starts thinking, oh, what would it be like to ejaculate in space? You know, where there's no gravity. So yeah. So anyway, that comment just absolutely made me laugh. So yes, we have got the Orchid vomit and the Orchid vomit and the space ejaculation releases of Moonraker now and available, and people are extremely very, very happy with them. All of our Brown is, I've spoken to them again, and they have said that they are releasing the James Bond collection in spring. The reason why it was never released in November is because All of Our Brown had decided to release their Lamborghini range of sports clothing instead. So yeah, according to All of Our Brown, the James Bond collection is coming in spring. I would suspect that it may be to coincide with Thunderball, A View to Kill, GoldenEye, Inspector. If not, anyway, it's still cool, but I'm kind of suspecting that it will be an anniversarial edition. So, going to the main sort of topic of today's programme, which is, what I think are the 3 points on why people don't like No Time to Die. Now, personally, I absolutely love that film, and I know that people are now going to switch off, and I know that I'm probably in a minority of people that do like that film. I kind of feel that maybe the 3 reasons is probably just slightly a little bit misunderstood. If you don't like that film, I totally get why. I totally understand it. I don't expect your opinions or views to change, but just hear me out. So obviously the first issue is the most blatant and biggest and most obvious, which is James Bond dies. A lot of people to this day have still got problems with that. Now, going back to 2015, when Daniel Craig did Spectre, when he finished filming, the journalists, tabloids asked the question, would you want to come back? And he kind of made that famous remark of, I'd rather slash my wrists. Now, yes, it was probably not the wise thing to say, but again, you've got to think about the sort of situation, the circumstances. If you had done a 12-hour shift or a 15-hour shift and they said, oh, can you come back to work? I'm going to slash my wrist, Now, doing the Bond films, they are massive productions. There's a lot of, especially for Daniel Craig, there's a lot of physical work in him. He's got to get himself, fit. He's got to get himself, shaped up. So there's a lot of commitment in that. So yeah, naturally he is going to be like, I'd rather slash my wrist than do that again. So, but the thing is, when I saw Spectre, a lot of people kind of said, oh yeah, that's going to be his last film. Retrospectively, I totally see that now, but at the time I saw Spectre, I never saw that as being his last film. I thought, no, I kind of think there's a bit more to tell. So, of course, August 2017, he officially announced that he would do one final James Bond film, and he just wants to make it something special and wants to go out on a high, and out with a bang. Of course, everybody cheered. Now, that there, is enough to tell you that, okay, his final film is going to be different. Because he wants to go on a high, he wants to do something special, meaning it's going to be different. Even when they trailers and things came out, it kind of stated that this was going to change all the films and all the missions before. So there was definitely kind of an inclination that something was going to be different. Production had started, and I kind of thought of said, they're probably going to kill him off. Daniel Craig is probably going to kill Bond off. And that was something that never, even the thought never bothered me. It was a thought that over 30 years, nearly 30 years of Bond fandom, it's a thought that's crossed my mind quite a few times, thinking, what would happen if they kill Bond off? Not only would that means, that means they would have to obviously not make any James Bond films, but then I think on the other hand is, it's fine because you just bring back another actor. So killing Bond off was never an issue for me. It was just something that I just found interesting because it'd never been done. And then you kind of think, well, okay, if there's to kill him off in the film, how could, I mean, they've got it's got to be something where he sacrifices himself to save others. So I was kind of thinking, okay, they're probably going to go down the sort of Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale, Dark Knight Rises kind of route, where we see Batman take the nuclear bomb out away from Gotham. We don't know what happened, and then obviously there's that prologue at the very end where we see, you know, Bruce Wayne at a cafe with, you know, winking and smiling at Alfred. Obviously that's open for interpretation, so I'm thinking, yeah, it'll be something similar like that. And of course in the film it was, you know, he you know, had to kind of sacrifice his life to save others, and there was kind of a really nice plausible sort of reason to it. Now, when I was very, very fortunate, thanks to Mr. Julian Digby, to actually go to the premiere of No Time to Die at the Royal Albert Hall. And I can remember watching the film, sort of bearing in mind, okay, I have a feeling that they may kill him off. But then you also kind of think, maybe not. I think it was towards the end where Safin then shoots him. I think, this is going to be it. And yeah, it was. And my God, I think everybody in the Royal Albert Hall cried because Bond died. And the sort of, I can remember us all walking out, and there was definitely like a sort of a mourning period. There was a lot of people just came out speechless. The spirits weren't high. However, there was probably, to my knowledge, there's probably about 5 or 6 people who actually loved the film and actually commented on that could have been Craig's best performance, and which I absolutely agree. And you could just tell that Craig was just was just really enjoying it, probably because it was his last ever Bond film, but he was just having a whale of a time. And so with, you know, kind of Bond dying and stuff, you know, I just thought, well, okay, you know, it is different. Sort of once the film was released, that's when, you know, obviously other people went to see it, and that's when the kind of, a lot of people sort of didn't like it, you know, some claiming it as the worst James Bond film ever, and it's like, well, how dare they kill James Bond off, you know, I've been a fan for 60 odd years, blah blah blah, you know. And it's a kind of almost to the like point where you was expecting Barbara and Michael to be apologising to these fans. I'm just thinking, just get over it, right? It's fine, because how is it any different to, you know, sort of Daniel Craig's interpretation of James Bond dying than replacing Sean Connery's interpretation of Bond with Roger Moore? It's, you know, you've got the Sean Connery, you know, Roger Moore comes along, you kind of ignore Sean Connery and then you carry on with Roger Moore. But what people couldn't get their head around is like that a lot of people to this day see Bond as one continuous character. I do, up until No Time to Die, up until Daniel Craig, because even Casino Royale stated that it was going to be a reboot, that it, you know, Casino Royale, it's a fresh slate, it's not going to be connected to what had gone before. So I'm thinking, okay, you know, Craig is a separate era, you've got five films which kind of sort of tell kind of the episodes of his career as 007, and you know, No Time to Die comes and then he kills him off. But, you know, people are like straight away thinking, oh, well, you know, Cubby's going to be spinning his grave because he told Barbara and Michael not to screw it up. No, what he told Barbara and Michael was, don't let other people screw it up. So, you know, I think with, you know, Barbara and Michael selling it to Amazon, I think right now Cubby will be spinning in his grave. But a lot of, you know, what's been quoted has been just twisted and misinterpreted and all that. But no, with James Bond dying, yes, a lot of people have problems with that, and I get it. But for me, it was the only, you know, it worked brilliantly for Daniel Craig. The only thing is you can't continue to do it. You can only do it once. You can only kill him off once. I think with Daniel Craig, it worked. It just worked perfectly for him. And this is a bit where a lot of people don't kind of realise is that you know, Ian Fleming actually killed James Bond off in the novels. You know, the fifth novel, From Russia with Love, at the very end, it's left with us not knowing Bond's fate. You know, he's got poisoned. That was it, because Fleming was getting bored of James Bond and he wanted to make From Russia with Love his last book. It was only that Jonathan Cape, the publisher, had encouraged him to keep writing more. So Ian Fleming certainly wouldn't be spinning in his grave, because Fleming had wanted to kill Bond off. And the thing is if Fleming had been around for another 10 years, he would have no doubt have killed Bond off. Conan Doyle, he killed Sherlock off. You know, all these authors seem to get bored with the creations. Agatha Christie with Poirot, you know, they, you know, get bored of the creations and they kill him off. But let's not forget Jim Hatfield's little known novel, The Killing Zone. It basically killed James Bond off. You know, James Bond was dead. And then you get Anthony Horowitz in With a Mind to a Kill, where the final pages there is kind of left for open interpretation. You know, you've got James Bond walking, I think probably towards the checkpoint Charlie, I think, with his back against whoever, and we just hear gunfire, and you know, we kind of think, okay, has Bond died? Has he not? I have kind of thought, okay, he hasn't died, because he's obviously then gone to appear in Colonel Sun and then live on into the John Gardner era. So, yeah, I mean, you know, James Bond dying, it's not new. The thing is, it's, in the great scheme of things, it makes no difference. The other point, which I think people have had issues with, is the introduction of a new 007. Now, back in the day on Hildebrand, I actually kind of predicted this. And I, you know, there was sort of rumours that Bond was retiring and that he was basically training a young MI6 agent, becoming a protege. And then I thought, well, okay, what happens if that new MI6 agent actually becomes 007, takes his number? And then I'm thinking, well, hang on, 007, that could be anybody. It could be a female, it could be black, it could be anyone. So, of course, I then announced this on Hildebrand, the James Bond group. I would say probably about 35% of people knew what I meant and was kind of okay with it. The remaining 65% just absolutely lost their shit, whilst the 25% of that 65% just totally didn't get what I was getting at all. And it was interesting because, you know, there was people who are kind of members of Hildebrand who have never contributed, never engaged. All of a sudden, they crop up out of the woodwork and they're engaging, they're contributing. And it's just literally kind of just spot reading. They see certain words and then just lose their shit. They see black, woman, 007 in the same sentence. And it just went absolutely crazy. And people just weren't getting it. There was a lot of people who just couldn't think out of the box. It's like, well, no, 007 belongs to James Bond. James Bond, blah, blah, blah. It's like, hang on. Is James Bond got 007 branded on his forehead from birth? No. He was given that number because he'd earned it. Bond now retires, is not going to take that number with him. So yes, that number is going to go with somebody else. And the notion of exploring other 007s has been something that's been with me for a long time. And then obviously Anthony Horowitz with Forever and a Day, he explores that. And then I started doing a bit of fan fiction, kind of writing a bit of an outline of Bond 22, which I titled Rosico. And there was a bit in there where Bond had attended Vesper's funeral, and Villas, who was actually in Casino Royale, played by Tobias Menzies. He, returned for Rosico and basically said to Bond that M's lover had been murdered and that M had sent the previous 007 to go and avenge him. And the moral is that M felt a bit of closure because she kind of got even and she kind of got her own back, but it didn't bring her lover back. A lot of people just flat out don't seem to get it, and he's like, well, it's an idea which I've always loved. So obviously, Lashana Lynch, she then comes on and plays 007, and then again people just lose the shit. They're now saying No Time to Die has become woke and all this. It's like I cannot see how it's become woke again, because the thing with No Time to Die is I actually really, really love that film because it's got everything that I was wanting. I was kind of wanting Bond to die. But that doesn't make me not a Bond fan. It doesn't make me a traitor. It just, makes it's just a fine example of how I'm happy to sort of explore and go off the tracks and just go elsewhere with it, to explore the character. Bit like, I was more than happy when he revealed that Lashana Lynch was 007, because I just thought it was just a brilliant idea. It was basically a massive FU to the media and to everybody who keeps raving about, oh yeah, the next actor should be, the next James Bond should be black, it should be a woman. It can't be any of them. I, to this day, would love if Amazon would give us a kind of a limited series on the origins of Nomi and how she earned a license to then become 007. Kind of set it between Spectre and No Time to Die. And kind of sort of the latest remake of the Day of the Jackal with Eddie Redmayne and Lashana Lynch. Lashana Lynch kind of was sort of similar to that character, I always thought. It was kind of sort of the same character, kind of extended. But yeah, so, killing off Bond, I had no issue with it. And having, introducing 007 as a female was brilliant because it made sense. If you look at the films, I think Thunderball and The World Is Not Enough, I think they both feature female 00s in a briefing room. And the thing with Fleming is, what's not to say that he would have, introduced a female 00 if it, carried on. Sebastian Faulks obviously introduced a female 004 in The Devil May Care. So, no, I mean, all these things certainly are not against what Fleming would have wanted. And the third sort of problem, which I think kind of gets people's backs up, is that Bond's all of a sudden no longer Bond, is too weak, is become a family man. Well, again, you go back to the novels, You Only Live Twice, he actually as a child. But talking You Only Live Twice, of course, Bond was then assigned the code 7777. So, You Only Live Twice, he wasn't 007, he was somebody else. So even Fleming kind of played with the ideas. And, the thing with No Time to Die is there's, quite a bit of You Only Live Twice in there, because obviously the bit where Bond strangles Blofeld, the poison gardens from the novel, Bond having kids from the novel. So whether or not, just it's come directly from the pages of what Ian Fleming's written, does that make any better? For me it does, because, give me anything which Fleming's written, I know that it is what is wanted and it's true to what, true to its source. So, yeah, but the thing is, I kind of understand why people have got an issue with No Time to Die, especially with him dying. I get it. That's it for this episode. This was an episode that I wanted to do for a while, but it's basically just, sort of the the three problems which I kind of feel for many have kind of let No Time to Die down. But for me, I mean, you know, if you dislike the film, brilliant. I'm not expecting my opinions to change yours whatsoever. But I do kind of feel that it is misunderstood, and that if it does make any difference to you at all, just remember that there is a lot of Fleming in there, and that it's actually going back to the scriptures, and that it's going back to the works of what Fleming had written. So yeah, but yes, so March the 26th, we see Bait, which is the Riz Ahmed 6-part comedy series. Bond has now been released on Netflix in the US, I believe for 4 months. All of our Brown have told me that they will be releasing a Bond collection in spring. Still no news on A View to a Kill and GoldenEye from La La Land. And yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you for watching, and thank you for the support, and don't forget to like and share and leave your views on No Time to Die in the comments. Many thanks. Thank you.